Good morning. I'm Karen.
I'm Kathryn, and you're listening to Coffee with Milk. Today, you could probably see to my left, it's probably your right, my left, we have a very, very special guest with us today. We talk about him. He is the man, the myth, the legend. He is the love of my life. It
And
is
my baby
it is
boy.
Carrot Cake. He's Carrot Cake's favorite parent. He is here today, and he is, yeah, I love him. He is my husband, the Adam Feltner.
Yay. And this is the man, and sometimes that's hard for me to say. I know he's a man. I can look at him and see that,
30
but I
year old
still see my little sweet baby boy, the man that made me a mother, something I always wanted to be as long as I can remember. And I love this man with everything I have. I'm so proud of him. I love what a sweet, wonderful, kind human being he is. And I'm also extra happy that he found my sweet Kathryn, and now they are happy together. So we are very excited to have Adam with us today
We
when we
are.
talk about childhood memories. And I'm a little bit nervous. I told Kathryn when we talked about doing this and having Adam on, I was like, what if he like had the worst childhood and I just didn't know, and I'm about to hear about it with the rest of y'all. So we're gonna see
No.
what Adam's gonna share today.
No. Well, first things first, Adam, we do this fun thing where we talk about the drinks that we have. I know you don't do very
Mhm.
fun drinks because you're a simple, simple man. But would you, as our guest of honor, like to go first and tell us what you're drinking today?
Sure. Well, I am drinking an artisan beverage by the Pepsi Cola Corporation. Good old Mountain Dew here.
Yeah, breakfast of
Originally
champions.
gonna have coffee, but then I just woke up and wanted something cold, so
I feel that.
that'll
Whatever
do.
gets your day going.
Whatever gets your day moving along.
Hmm. What you got, Kathryn?
So fun backstory. So my sister-in-law got me this cup, and like a few weeks ago, it shattered at the bottom. Like you can
Oh
kind of see it.
no.
And so I've super glued the entire bottom back together. Because it's my favorite cup. So
Wow.
Bethany got this for me, like, I think our first Christmas
Yeah.
together. I want to say
Yeah,
it
it
was
was a
forever ago.
while ago.
So I
Yeah.
was literally cried when it shattered. I was like, this is literally the most disrespectful
Oh.
thing that could ever happen to me because it's my favorite
Oh.
cup. It actually inspired my wedding gift cups to my girls. But today we just have a ye old, tried and true caramel macchiato in my cup. She's living it.
Okay.
What do
That's
you
awesome.
got, Miss Karen?
So I have, if our listeners can't tell, I am hopefully recovering from a very nasty cold this week that my youngest baby boy brought home from school. So he was sick this week too, and he shared with his mama. So still recovering. Apologize in advance if you hear coughing and nose blowing. I'll try not to. I'll try to refrain. I am drinking a hot coffee because it helps soothe my throat. My good old chock full of nuts with, I think, same thing I had last time, which was a couple pumps of the Mexican cinnamon flavor, sugar free,
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit of hazelnut Chobani
Ooh.
creamer. Sounds like an odd combination, but I'm telling you, it's good.
Is it? I'm still
Yeah.
apprehensive to get the Chobani hazelnut, only because I'm worried that I'm not gonna like it.
Yeah.
I'm so worried. Chobani's never missed on a creamer, but I'm just so hesitant because of this one next to me.
Yeah. Well, you could
I
try
wonder if
it when
they're
you come in
white
the house.
chocolate.
Are they
They're
white?
white chocolate.
Yeah, I saw it at one of the Targets around here, and I haven't seen it anywhere else, but it looks really good.
Yeah, it does sound good. Target carries a lot of their variety, kind of different ones that you can't find other
Mm.
places.
Would probably be good with that strawberry coffee we just bought.
Oh, like a white
Target branded.
chocolate covered strawberry.
Yeah,
That sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
it's one of Target's seasonal ones. We got their orange cream one, which is really good. It's one of
Yeah.
my favorites. But they
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
have the strawberry cream one out too.
Yeah, she was telling me about that. Oh, Camera Queen. Good morning, ma'am. Say hello to your
Hello,
listeners.
Olive. Hello,
She's like, where's
my.
that coming from?
She's like,
I'm
what?
talking to
Who's saying hello to me? I don't know how I feel.
No, she's just gonna lay in the middle of the table. What
She
you
does
doing,
every
girl?
time.
Yeah, just has to be in front of the camera. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about childhood memories. And originally we had thought about talking about good memories maybe this week and things we remember and how they have impacted us. And then maybe do a second series or a second episode next week on maybe not so good childhood memories, which are usually not fun to talk about. But as I was chatting with Kathryn a little bit last night, I was like, what do you think if we maybe just do it all together? Just kind of get it out there. Because I do feel like sometimes, you know, you can find something good in a bad memory, or try to turn it into a lesson, something that you learned from it. So we decided to go ahead and just do it all together. So I'll start if it's okay with just like some of my favorite childhood memories. And they are usually things that I guess it's the things that I remember a lot more, and that is things at Christmas. So I remember a lot about Christmases. One of my favorite things was when I was a kid, we lived with my grandparents. I have two older sisters, my parents. And so the five of us lived with my grandparents for several years, probably from the time I was about 3 until I was 8 or 9 or something. And my grandparents owned a lot of land, so my grandpa would go cut the fresh Christmas tree every year, and it was always a cedar tree, so it made the house smell really good. Lots of sap everywhere, of course. And I'm sorry for the interruption here. And I just remember that my grandma would get all the really old decorations out, the ornaments, and she would tell us about them and where they came from. And it was just kind of, even as a child, I think, as a kid, you don't always appreciate things like that. But I remember thinking it was really cool that these ornaments had been used for so many years, and that some of them, she had as a younger girl or as a young mother, and just decorating the tree. And my grandpa would pop popcorn in the fireplace. So I know that. So he had, I don't know if you see, it's like a metal mesh basket with a long handle on it, and it had a lid on it that would slide closed. You put your popcorn kernels in there, and then you would just like shake it over the hot fire, and the popcorn would pop. So he would make popcorn, and we would just decorate the tree. And it wasn't even about what was under the tree or anything like that. It was just, it's a very vivid memory for me year after year of helping them decorate the Christmas tree. So that's one of my really, really fond memories.
Are one of our children misbehaving, Adam?
Sorry, I was turning the humidifier on. It's a little dry in here.
Oh, I was like, is one of our kids misbehaving? Because there's only one good one I see behind you right now.
I was going to say, looks like
There's a
Carrot
coma
keeps
behind me.
holding things down.
I don't know where the baby went. He was in here. Now I don't know where he went. Well, do you have any fun memories, Adam, of your childhood? You don't have to
I have
share a
a,
whole bunch. You can share one at a time.
I have a ton of fun childhood memories.
Give us
I'm so
one.
excited to hear this.
I don't even know where to, like, I've been trying to think of where to start. I don't even know, just because I feel like we had a pretty good childhood.
It makes
I
me happy to
know,
hear you say that.
I know when we were younger, our grandparents would get us Kings Island passes for like Christmas. There was a bunch of years in a row where we'd get them. So Kings Island was like the be all end all of like
Right.
childhood. So we'd go a couple times during the summer, and I'd always love to go, but like I'd get there and then I'd be terrified to ride like half the stuff. But eventually I kind of got over that once I got older. But
Yeah.
I just remember going to Kings Island a lot, and get a funnel cake every now and then or something fun. But did that a lot. I know we went swimming a lot. I know when we were going to Dina's when we were like
Yeah,
really little. I still remember going swimming there. I remember a lot about going
yeah.
there.
Getting yourself a nice little golden tan.
Mhm. I mean, I spent my childhood a lot, honestly, a lot the same as how I spend my adulthood. I played video games a lot and
Inside.
messed around
Smaller
on the
version.
computer a
Yeah.
lot. It's just that kind of inspired the adulthood career option. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, nothing like I don't know that I have anything super specific, but it seems
Yeah.
like we always had something going on or something to do. So,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
but
Well, good. I'm super happy to hear that. I'm telling you, I was like, my kids,
Nervous.
they're probably so screwed up and I don't even know
No.
it.
At least Adam's not. I can't speak for Bethany. I don't know what
Right.
Bethany has going on.
Yeah.
Can't
I
speak for her.
remember she used to get tormented by me when we'd go outside and
Oh,
play
yeah.
with
Makes
the
sense.
water hose. I
Hmm.
wasn't even nice about it. We'd had the old I know they still make them, but like you could turn the um
Settings.
I don't even
The
remember, like
nozzle
the
Spray,
thing.
nozzle,
whatever,
yeah, into
yeah.
like the different settings.
Yeah.
And instead of doing like the shower one, I turn it to like jet, which is like a
Right.
pressure washer, and I just drip
Like
over.
blast her up against a tree
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
That
I
makes
think,
sense.
yeah, the thing I would say along those lines that I remember, and of course I remember a lot more about my children's childhood than I do my own because I was an adult when they were kids. And
Right.
but Adam is sort of anyone that knows Adam knows he's hilarious. But if you don't know him well, you're just gonna think he's kind of quiet and not
Is he
super
funny though?
outgoing. He's funny. He
Is
gets that from
he?
me. He is. My kids all
You're
got my
funny, but
sense of
is he
humor.
funny?
I think he's hilarious.
I don't think
Um, but he would sort of quietly torment his sister. I mean, if I was there, he might be a little more angelic about it. And,
so. Mm.
what did I do? I didn't know it was on full blast. But, I mean, he would give it to her pretty good and she would give it back, but they still can do that to one
Oh,
another.
they still
But
do, for sure.
yeah, but,
Yeah.
he was sort of, a little more, what's the word? Little more secretive about it, a little kind of,
Mm-hmm.
unsuspecting because at school, he was just never in trouble, never got a call from a teacher. I don't think he ever had detention. Did you ever have detention, Adam?
Oh
Maybe
yeah, I had
once.
plenty of detentions.
Was that middle school, high
That
school?
was, I think I only got detention like twice in high school, and
The
it was usually
truth.
because like I'd forgotten to do like a thing of homework or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Forgot or chose to forget.
and I think they
Mm.
started doing detentions in like fifth grade at Middletown Christian.
He's
Yeah.
so
Uh,
cute.
and I got more in junior high than I did in middle school, but I remember
Seems
getting
like I
some.
kind of remember junior high.
And looking back, I think it was mostly just because of how strict they were on stuff. Because like they had
Yeah,
like a three strike system, and then you got like
yeah,
but like the rules were so strict, like you could get a strike for like almost anything.
yeah,
Like I remember
yeah.
one time I got written up for something because somebody asked if I could borrow a pencil or like something, and I like they were sitting like a chair or two over from me, and I just kind of like tossed it to him, and the teacher in that class had like a no tossing thing rule, and like I got caught and I got written up for it. So
So
it
yeah,
wasn't like
that's
I was like dunking kids' heads in toilets. It was just like little
right, right. Yeah,
I don't know.
that's the rebellious Adam right there. It
Wow.
wasn't even
Throwing
rebellious.
things.
That's Adam trying to be nice.
Meanwhile, in high school, you had to like beat somebody to a pulp to get
Yeah, burn the building down to get expelled or
yeah.
something. Very different. So for our listeners that don't know, Adam and his sister went to private school Adam went through the eighth grade and then high school as a public high school. So it was a little bit of a adjustment there, a little bit of a learning curve, but yeah, just different set of rules and yeah. But yeah, so I always thought Adam he was definitely my quietest child. Um, as far as just
I think he still is your quietest
yeah,
child.
I think yeah, he is. But just so funny and just the sweetest thing. So kind.
He's
All right,
all
Kathryn, what's
right.
you got? You got a number one fond childhood memory?
Unlike two people in the room, I had a very mixed childhood of good and bad. I have a lot of childhood trauma. I guess one of my favorite, and we can kind of segue into like recipes because I know we talked about wanting to talk about childhood recipes as
Mm-hmm.
well. Was
Yeah.
actually in the summer, my mom and I we would sit and we would make strawberry jam and salsa for like a whole day
Oh,
long. We would
how
just spend all day
fun.
cutting strawberries, making the jam, and then we would sit there and cut everything up, make sauce. Like it was just like a whole day. And sometimes we'd make our own homemade like spaghetti sauce on top of it, and we just
I
freeze it
love
and just have like
that.
a day just the two of us. And that probably really awakened my love for like cooking and clean. Like, what are you looking
Yeah.
at? Adam, you had me confused. You were like, what?
Oh,
Well, I think we would both like to know why we haven't tasted your homemade strawberry jam. That's what I'd like to know.
I live in an apartment and have no space.
Okay.
That's
Well,
partially why.
let's make a
Um,
plan. Get together with your mom and pick a day.
Honestly, she would love that because and kind of with our quality or love language, my mom's is definitely quality time. So she probably would
Yeah.
love for the
Yeah.
two of us to get together and
Mm-hmm.
make jam all day long. Because she started making other jam too. I think she even
Yeah.
made like apple butter as well. Because I've made my own apple butter in
Mm.
time. I feel like I'm
All right.
screaming in my ear. Sorry. I
No,
just
you're
kind of
fine.
progressively got louder in my ear, and I was like, what is happening? Why am I screaming at myself?
I
But
bet your
it
mom would
was,
love that if
I think
you
she
made it.
absolutely would.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely a baker and a cooker. I love being in my kitchen, it's my favorite thing.
Mm-hmm.
We used to participate in 4-H. I don't know if a
Oh.
4-H is a whole country thing. I've only been to the state
Mm-hmm.
4-H, but I've never been to a whole national 4-H
Yeah,
convention.
I think
But
that's
so
a good
I think it
question.
is,
Yeah.
but
I mean, I know it's in other states. I know
I know
that.
it is because I went to the state competition for my cookies and my grilled chicken. I am the best. Everybody be jealous of my cooking and baking skills. I'm just kidding.
I'm jealous that I'm not tasting your cooking and baking skills. I have had some of your,
Come
definitely
and
had some of your
live in
baked stuff.
Ohio and you can have it all you
She
want.
is a great baker. She had to throw that in there.
I actually get it from my grandma. My grandma owned her own wedding cake company, and so she made cakes.
Nice.
My mom
Oh,
likes to say it skipped a generation, but she's just as great of a baker as I am, and as her
I
mother is.
believe
She's
that.
phenomenal. I love her cooking and baking. She does the most. Like we went over for the Super Bowl last weekend, and she made buffalo chicken dip, brownies. What else? She made these really nice, like it's like bell peppers filled with like cream
mhm,
cheese and a whole
those
bunch
were
of other
good.
things
Mm.
with mozzarella and like
Oh,
pepperoni on top. We had shrimp. Like
oh,
we had
so
my
good.
mom does the most.
She's Martha Stewart.
She goes she if she could redo her life, not that she doesn't like being a nurse, I think she would have been like
Mhm.
an event coordinator in another
Oh, yeah.
lifetime.
Me too.
She
It's not
loves
too
hosting
late. Maybe,
parties.
yeah, maybe we should start our business when we
Link up.
retire together.
There you go.
Me
I
and
would hire you guys
Becky.
for our events. The only other events we'll have are probably baby showers, but that's about it.
Plural baby showers.
Let's say maybe you guys can
There
host the baby shower for us when we get
you
pregnant.
go. Okay.
Do
All
it
right.
together. But
So,
yeah.
yeah, that's really, I love that. I love those things that involve time together. Like, even like Adam was saying, you know, so excited about going to Kings Island and being excited and then get there and it's like, I don't know if I want to ride that. I do remember us riding a lot of let's see if I can talk, water rides and getting soaked and those kinds of things. But, you don't have to ride every single thing, but it was time together. I
Hmm.
remember, Adam, do you remember this time at Kings Island when we were getting ready to get on the log ride and the guy was holding the little log boat for us to get in and he slipped and fell in the water. And
Oh
I could not stop laughing. I thought I was going to pee myself. It was hilarious. And he hops
no.
up and he's like, I'm
Oh, I hope they let him go home early after
I
that.
don't know. It was hot. They probably felt
Probably,
good.
yeah, probably felt great. He's probably like, I'm
Like
living
a
the
little
vida
dip.
loca.
Yeah,
He's like, actually,
right.
don't help me out. I just want to spend a little
I'll
longer in here.
just give me a few seconds. Yeah, it was hilarious. But yeah, I do remember those times. They were a lot of fun. Yeah, so since you were talking about baking and stuff, I remember my a lot of I, I don't want to I'm not saying I won't talk about negative childhood memories. As I was thinking about this, I was thinking kind of like you, Kathryn, and I don't know if it's because the negative things sort of stick with you maybe more than the positive or just the day-to-day kinds of things, because I do have some childhood memories that are not good, um, and they didn't involve a cat that was a little camera hog, um,
Just
but
being a goof. The
yes,
cutest.
yes. Um, my my mom's parents lived in Texas the majority of my childhood. They moved, I think, when I was probably in like second grade or something, and then they moved back to Ohio when I was in college. So they would come to visit, but I didn't get to spend as much time with them. My dad's parents, they lived really close. Like I said, we lived with them for a long time, and then visited all the time. Every holiday was with them, just at least probably pretty much every weekend we were at their house. During the summers we would go stay with them. So we did. My grandpa always grew a huge garden, and so my grandmother did a lot of canning and freezing and that kind of stuff. Made her own barbecue sauce and those kinds of things. So always helped like do those kinds of things. And I know y'all probably don't listen to country music, but there's a song called Mama's House. Now, we didn't call her Mama, we called her Grandma. But I was like, that sounds exactly like my childhood, because one of the lines says something about she made me my fingers wore my fingers to the bone or something, shelling peas and shucking corn. And I was like, did all that. Like, you were there, you were going to work. You had work to do. So you're going to eat this food, you're going to help fix it. So it was a lot of that. But I learned a lot about that, just about cooking and stuff from my grandmother. She was a great cook. And she always made chocolate chip cookies. She had this little cookie jar. It was almost always full of cookies, and she would always put walnuts in them. Adam wouldn't be able to eat them, but they were good. And so I guess I learned a lot of kitchen kind of skills from her. And one of the things I always did with my children, because like Kathryn, I love to bake. I don't mind cooking. I'm not a great cook. I'm an okay cook. Like, obviously, we're okay. Like, nobody's starving. But I love to bake. That's like my favorite. And so we had this little tradition as my children were growing up, that whenever I would make chocolate chip cookies, they would come sit with me. Sometimes one, sometimes the other, sometimes both. But whenever we opened a fresh bag of chocolate chips, Adam, what did we have to do?
Always got to taste test them.
Yeah, I had to taste test them to make sure we didn't get a bad batch.
Is that why you always steal mine?
I do it to this day.
He
probably
does.
More than I was a kid.
Literally, I'll be like baking, and he's like, I gotta taste test it. And I was like, no, you don't. Stop. You're taking all my recipes.
It was just a fun little thing we did. It was like, you got to have a little few chocolate chips and make sure they're good. And so, yeah, we still do that to this day. It was just kind of a fun memory that I started with my kids. And I hope y'all will do it with your kids. It's just fun. It's just, I loved having them, my children, close to me and with me. And I would take them so many places. If I was going to the grocery store or Walmart or whatever, and they're like, can I go? And I'd be like, sure, let's go. I just loved having them with me. I loved being a mother. I loved being their mother. It was just another childhood memory that I wrote down, is just always thinking about wanting to be a mom. From as young as I can remember. And some people they think about their wedding. Some little girls have planned their wedding out to the last detail by the time they're, in seventh grade or something. It was never about that for me. I just knew that I wanted to be a mother. And my babies did not disappoint.
He's okay,
So
I
yeah,
guess.
that was
He's okay, I guess.
But yeah, honestly, there was nothing special about my recipe that I used for chocolate chip cookies, but I did make one variation. So if y'all want my chocolate chip cookie recipe, you buy yourself a bag of Toll House chocolate chips, regular ones, semi-sweet. Follow the recipe on the back. The only thing I did different was, instead of brown sugar, I would use the full capacity of just white sugar, so regular sugar. So I think it's like 3/4 cup of each is what the recipe calls for, and I would do 1.5. Since then, I've gone back to putting the brown sugar in because I actually think it tastes better. But it makes them a little bit different. So if you want to try it, switch it up a little bit, just do all regular sugar. And that was my childhood recipe that my children ate their chocolate chip cookies from.
Didn't you use Crisco or something with it?
I did. You're right. I always use butter flavored Crisco.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I forgot, because it does call for butter. And I always use butter flavored Crisco. Now, that stuff is highly expensive right now. It's very outrageous, but it does make them really good. So yes, thank you I had forgotten about that. That's the other.
My mom used to have to use that too, because I had a friend who was allergic to milk, so we had to use stuff like that and cookies if we were giving him any. So I am friend with the butter flavored Crisco as well.
Yeah.
Not faux friend.
Makes good cookies. Now, I will say, I don't think I really taught my children a whole lot about cooking. I don't know. Adam, do you remember helping me cook?
A little bit.
If he does, he didn't pick any of it up.
Nothing really stuck. I'm still kind of relearning everything as an adult. But okay.
I apologize for that, because that's my fault. I should have been more.
No, he's learning. He got for Christmas a whole bunch of I suck at cooking cookbooks. Help me. He wants to start cooking once a week, I think, to kind of, because I told him, I was like, I'm not dropping my career once and if we have kids, because I've worked extremely hard to find out where I want to be in life, and I'm not giving that up for children. Sorry to all the people that may trigger, but my children, I will not be giving up my career for them.
Well, I mean, I didn't. I went back to work when each one of my babies were 6 weeks old. I went back to work. So
honestly, in this economy, I don't even think I can afford to give up my career for children.
Yeah,
even if I wanted to.
For sure. Yeah, I couldn't if I wanted to. But yeah, I think.
Do you have any favorites, Adam? Any favorite recipes?
The cookies was a big thing. Another one that to this day I need to track down the recipe for. My grandma made my all-time favorite potato salad.
Oh yeah,
potato salad. I didn't even know you liked potato salad.
Oh, she made
the best I have ever eaten in my life.
Bethany has it.
Does she? Okay, I know.
Yeah, your grandma made her
several years ago. Yeah, she made a bunch. That I didn't have any access to.
Sounds like we gotta call Bethany soon.
Yeah, I have never seen anyone's potato salad that has recreated it the way hers did.
Yeah, I know. And I know she put relish in it, and didn't she put some hard-boiled eggs in there a little bit?
I don't like relish. Yeah, you're gonna eat that on your own. I don't like relish.
Mustard. It had mustard. It was a yellow potato salad. Yeah, it had a mustard and mayo in it.
She used to make
not a yellow.
I forget why. One was.
Oh yeah, did one have onions and one didn't, because somebody didn't like onions. Yeah,
but it wasn't me, because I love the onions.
Yeah,
and she'd always make extra, because she knew I'd eat as much as she would make. She knew I would eat it. So,
yeah.
I always got to be the first one to test it, because she knew it was my favorite.
Yeah,
I had to track that down.
Yeah, she was.
See if I can copy it.
She was really good about. This is Adam's father's mom. She was good about knowing what people's favorite were. She would make sure she would make extra. Now, Adam, I know she loved all her grandchildren, but I know that Adam So she had her oldest grandson was, I think, about 13 when Adam was born. So she had
Big
gone for
gap.
13 years without grandchildren, and then Adam came along. And so I think she just really sort of reopened her grandmother eyes, and she just doted him. So did his grandpa. Just Adam used to drink coffee. His grandpa drank coffee, the strongest, blackest coffee, would make your hair curl, and he would drink it, and Adam would want some. He was about a year and a half or something, and he'd be like, I want coffee. He called it coffee.
Yeah, it was one of my
And
first words, I think.
yeah, and his grandpa would get a little bit in a spoon and give it to him, let it cool off, and you'd think Adam was like, dang, that's the best stuff I've ever had. And I'm like, oh Lord.
He still loves
But
his coffee black.
I do.
he
I'll bring
does.
it back.
Yeah, so that's from the
It
very
started early.
youngest age. Yeah, but they just doted this child. They did all of their grandchildren. They loved them very much.
I was the first of the batch because it was like there's Ethan,
Yeah.
and then there was a 13-year gap. Then it was like me. It was like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, then there was 4 that just like piled in there within about 2 years, 2.5 years. Yeah, so that little crew. One of them was at y'all's wedding, Allison. Yeah, she's yeah. They were tight, us 4, but yeah, that granny, she loved her babes. Yeah, that's got to be some good memories. I'm sure you've got good memories.
A lot of what I still love to eat was kind of shaped by like what she would make. It's like there's a lot of like old school like Kentucky food like she was raised on. Like I love fried okra and like cornbread and like all the stuff she make regularly. Like just still to this day love.
Yeah. She made some good cornbread too. She always made it in a cast iron skillet. Bethany might have that recipe too. I don't know. She's got a whole book.
I need to see if I can like copy everything that was in it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. She was a sweet lady. She loved her babies. So, Kathryn, what else you got for us?
I don't have a single grandparent memory because most of mine died when I was in elementary school.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't have any childhood grandparent memories, other than really sad ones. My mom's dad died when I was in like 4th, 5th grade. And then my dad's actual birth mom died when he was a teenager of cancer. And then his stepmom, my step grandma, which honestly pretty much my grandma, because I never viewed her as my step grandma, died. My only living grandparent is currently in New York, and we actually thought he was going to pass away this past year. But then my mom's mom, she technically passed away when I was in high school, but she had a brain tumor before even my oldest brother was born, that was removed, and she was never really herself when it was removed, and she just kind of digressed as she got older. So unfortunately, I don't have as fun grandparent memories as I would like to, because I kind of lost a lot of them, unfortunately, to a lot of medical issues. My grandpa actually didn't tell anybody he had cancer until he was pretty much on his deathbed. So he kind of accepted his fate and was like, I don't want to fight it. It is the Lord's time. It's my time to go, which really sucks because my mom has so many fond memories of him being a really great man. Like, he helped build a lot of the community that they like ended up retiring in. All that, and like I said earlier, my grandma, she was actually a wedding cake baker. So although I don't have any memories baking with her, I like to think that she's with me when I am baking because I got it from her, apparently.
I think that it would be so cool if you can buy these books, or you can just write it in a book yourself, but to get your parents to write some family stories and some family information for you all to be able to preserve, and then at some point share with your children, and then you all can add to it. But because sometimes we think we'll remember things that we don't, like stories that our parents or grandparents told us, and then we don't always remember. And it's just kind of nice to preserve some of that history.
Yeah.
If you had a photo of your grandmother that you resemble and maybe do a little
Mm-hmm.
side by side, I think your children would love that.
Mhm.
Maybe obviously not when they're
Right.
4 or 5, but especially as they are growing into
Mm-hmm.
adults.
We'll
It's
have to
just
see
really
if any
kind of
of them look
cool.
like her, because I look a lot like my
Yeah,
dad too. My dad is like the perfect middle
yeah,
ground of both of his parents. We
yeah,
did like that face swap that Snapchat has, and I look exactly, you
yeah.
couldn't even tell the difference.
I
I was like,
definitely see, yeah,
no.
that you resemble your dad.
I
Yeah,
look a lot like I have my dad's like the Duprat nose, like I've got
yeah,
everything. So, but honestly,
yeah.
yeah, unfortunately, a lot of my cooking not like unfortunately because it's been a great time for my mom and I to bond, but like I don't
Uh-huh.
have any baking memories with any of my grandparents because
Hmm.
one set lived all the way in New York and the other one technically lived in Indiana, but they were just never quite
Yeah,
there to really build that
yeah.
memory. I always tell people who are mean to their grandparents, I'm like, don't ever do that. What I
Hmm.
would do to have my grandparents with me in such monumental moments. Like, I
Yeah.
just, like, during the wedding, when we found out that my grandpa may passed away, I was a wreck. Like, you can ask Adam. I was so
Hmm.
sad because he was the only grandparent that was left. And I was like, I really want him to be there for my, like, even though he couldn't physically be there, I wanted him to
Hmm.
be on, like, the planet Earth. Well, like at least have
Yeah.
a grandparent still with us, and I was so sad. And I think they
Hmm.
videotaped it or something so he could watch it for like
Mhm.
down the
Yeah.
road. But I was just, oh, I
Yeah.
was torn up. But yeah, no, I
Yeah.
don't really remember much of anything, unfortunately, with my grandparents other than like hospital visits. I
Yeah.
know a lot of memories with my cousins and stuff. Like we would go
Hmm.
over to my grandparents because we were poor enough we couldn't afford cable, so we would. But my grandparents had cable, so that was the only time I ever got to watch like SpongeBob and stuff. So we would always stay up late watching TV, and like my grandparents had this like porch. It was like a oh my gosh, I can't think of what they're called. It's like a
Screened-in
kind
porch or
of
sunroom porch,
yeah, same. We
sunroom.
would, yeah, sunroom. And so, like, the cousins would sleep out on that because we would usually visit
Yeah.
in the summer more than anything. And we would
Hmm.
go lay out, and they had like a TV specifically for us. And they had like a little swing, like, what are those porch swings that we would sit there and we
Hmm.
would swing on it and watch TV for hours because it'd be the only time we got to watch cable.
That's funny. Yeah.
So we would do that. And so I think, yeah, no, I don't really have a lot of memories, unfortunately,
Hmm.
other than very unfortunate memories of like my grandpa when he was in the hospital, and then we took him to hospice where he eventually passed away that same
Yeah.
night that they took him there. And we all were just kind of like gathered around his hospital bed, just kind of watching him take
Hmm.
his last breath. And we all kind of
Yeah.
scattered afterwards. Me and my cousin went off to one of the room, and we kind of just sat there and cried and held each other. And it was sad,
Hmm.
but it was nice to have the whole family there to be there, watch him
Yeah.
pass away and all
Yeah.
that. Surprisingly, my great grandmother that I'm named after lived longer than most of my grandparents did.
Wow.
Yeah, she kept it kicking. She was not ready to
Yeah.
go. She was like, it is not my time and it never will be. Yeah. So,
Interesting.
but
Yeah.
a lot of my cooking and baking comes from the time spent with my mom.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love cooking and baking. I like to think I'm a master at both because Adam and I would be dead if one of us wasn't in it.
You're doing it enough to
And
keep everything going,
yeah,
right?
because I tell this story all the time, and he hates it when I do it. But at least I don't catch my oven on fire every time I try to bake something.
The oven
Oh,
itself wasn't on fire. It was
The
what was inside the oven.
okay, well, it caught on fire either way, and it was scary.
you're all about to witness a little family discussion here.
Do you have the scar still? Because I know you got a scar from burning yourself. You don't
No.
have it anymore? No, he
Mhm.
caught himself on fire in the process of trying to get it out of the
Oh
oven.
Lord. Now I have memories of I this when you said that it made me think of it. And if you ask either one of my sisters, they would tell you this story because they remember it well. Is someone cutting out? Are we good? Okay.
I think
Sorry, I
we're
heard some
good.
background noise.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
fine.
Oh, there's a
When
car
I
wash going on outside my
Oh,
ear.
okay, okay. When I was in high school in my Spanish class, I decided I was going to make churros to take for my class to try. I never made them before, but they were deep fried. I remember frying them in like a thing of grease or whatever. Thought I followed the recipe just fine. And when I got them out, you had to take them out of it's almost like kind of like making donuts, just sort of fry them and then kind of roll them over. They were little circles, they were like little balls. And then put them out on some paper towels to like soak up the grease. So I did that. And for some reason, they started exploding. Like, I don't know if I put baking powder instead of baking soda. I don't know what happened. They were literally like little bombs going off. And there was probably still to this day churro dough stuck to the ceiling. They were just, it was like a firing squad. They're just boom, boom, boom. And I was just in tears. I was so upset. I was probably like a freshman in high school. And my sisters just thought it was the funniest thing because they're just like going off like fireworks in the kitchen. And I'm trying to clean everything up. I mean, it was everywhere. They were just blown up. And of course, I had none left to take after all this hard work I had done. But yeah, that's kind of how my cooking started. But
gotta make mistakes.
I didn't set the oven on fire, but I did destroy a kitchen with churros. So yeah, maybe he comes by and honestly, I don't know.
I mean, that's never to say that I don't ever make mistakes in the kitchen. I mean, we all got to make mistakes to learn from them. I mean, I was probably the kid who would put too much flour in the stand mixer and then flour goes flying everywhere. I mean, literally, we have remnants of egg yolk on top of our ceiling currently because one of the eggs like exploded and it just went I still think it's sitting on our ceiling to this day. I'm like, I can't tell if it's pepper or mold. Maybe we should clean our ceiling.
Yeah, maybe.
I swear we're not disgusting. It's just, it's one of those where it's like time goes by and you kind of forget that it's there because it's out of sight, out of mind kind of moment.
It tells a story.
Right. We'll clean it before we leave, we swear.
I bet there's still churro dough on the ceiling of that house my aunt and uncle live there now. I'll have to ask them, do you see any little chunks on your ceiling?
Chunks of churro.
My grandmother, my mom's mom, even though I wasn't around her a whole lot as a child, when they moved back to Ohio, I remember picking up on some of her cooking skills because she was a really good cook too. Kind of like what Adam was saying, with that sort of Kentucky country style food that's not healthy but tastes amazing. She would cook everything low and slow. Like if she was making green beans, she would put them in a pot and keep it on really low heat and cook them for a really long time, like for hours. And just to make sure, you don't want to boil all the water out of them or anything, but whatever she would cook like that, it would just have such a really good flavor because it just got whatever seasoning you're putting in there, just sort of melded into it because it was that low and slow cooking process. And she would make some really good desserts. She made this apple stack cake. I don't know if you ever remember having that, Adam.
That sounds delicious. I want to have that.
It looked like little thin, it was like thin layers of cake, almost looked like pancakes, but it was a cake. And then you would make this sort of thick apple spread and you would layer this apple stuff between each layer of the cake. I wish I had that recipe. Oh,
Bethany?
My goodness, it was so good. Different. That's my grandma, so I don't think she has that. But
dang it,
I could probably find something similar to it. But oh my goodness, that was so good. And it was so pretty because it was just, you would cut it and you just see all those pretty layers in there. And she would cook, Adam, I bet you remember this because this was one of Adam's favorite things. I think your granny made it, and I know my grandma made it, was cooked apples.
Oh, he loves cooked apples.
Yeah.
He loves them.
Yes. She would cook them also very low and slow, and it would have cinnamon and that really good flavor in there. And they were just melts in your mouth. It was so good. And you can get cooked apples at Cracker Barrel. It's just not quite the same. I don't know why. It's
They're
just
close, but they're not.
yeah, close, but
They're
not
not.
quite. Yeah.
He
I
loves
think
them
there's a
still.
little too much texture to the ones at Cracker Barrel. I think hers just sort of fell apart, almost like
Mhm.
a warm applesauce.
It's almost like a
So good.
It's kind
Yeah,
of because
so good.
we usually in the fall time we like to go pick apples. I'm at our favorite little apple orchard, and I'll always make apple butter. And he's like, "I gotta make cooked apples," and I was like, "Okay, you'll
Yeah,
be the only one eating
yeah.
them because I don't like the
Oh,
texture of them, but have
I
at
do. They are
it."
so good. Yeah.
I
You can
actually have
save
so
something.
many, um, not a
Ginger.
ton, but like a lot of really good memories with my great grandparents, which I know not a lot of people get the chance to do. But
Yeah.
Same.
I know when I was in like kindergarten specifically, I remember this. Um, my grandparents would pick me up from kindergarten because I think I was the morning kindergarten class, and we got out at like
Mm-hmm.
12 o'clock or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And on
Same.
Fridays, we'd go over there
I love that for
and
us.
go to their house
Uh-huh.
because they kind of took care of them because my great grandpa was, I think it happened right before not too long before I was born, but he was paralyzed.
Uh-huh. I
But he
think
was in like a,
you were really small. I
okay.
think it
It
was
was,
right
I know,
before Bethany was born, I think.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. So basically the whole time I knew him, he was in a
Mm-hmm.
wheelchair, needed a lot of specialized care and stuff. But we'd go over
Uh-huh.
there and just kind of help out. And I
Yeah.
remember, um, I remember grandma cooking stuff. I never remember the
Yeah.
apples specifically, but
Yeah.
I remember he loved to watch The Price is Right, and that
Mm-hmm.
was where I started watching that. I
Price is
remember
right.
we'd watch that. He actually, I believe, was the person who taught me how to play checkers because we
Oh, I
played
believe
checkers all the
that.
time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Carrot
I
cake.
still love playing that to this day.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you have those memories. Honestly, I had kind of forgotten about that. So
Mhm.
I'm glad you have those.
And I remember, like, I would
Yeah.
help, like, when he'd have to transition from his bed to like his chair. I used to like,
Yeah.
there's like the winches and stuff that you'd have to pull, and I
Yes,
would help with
I
that.
remember
Hmm.
that. Oh, that's
Yeah,
so sweet.
that's
I will
cute.
say that's my grandpa, my mom's dad, and I loved my grandparents, but he was my favorite. He was one of my favorite people in the whole world. I remember as a child. Now, my grandparents had 7 children, and so I have probably 30, there's probably 30 grandchildren. I would have to count them, but each of those 7 have 2 to 4 children. So, there's a lot. I have a lot of cousins. I don't know that my grandfather ever showed favoritism. I mean, he loved us all so much, and we all loved him. He was the sweetest man. I remember as a little girl, and this would be before they moved to Texas. So it would have been, I was probably 5 or 6. And I just remember crawling up in his lap, and he just talked to us, and he was just the kindest man. He was tall and not fat, but just a kind of large bone man, just the sweetest man. Now, I've seen him get mad, and I've seen him, yell and stuff, but I just still to this day don't know that I've known a better man than him. He was just a wonderful person. And probably anybody you ask would tell you that. But
Mhm.
he loved Adam so much. I remember him just loving spending time with him, and even all of his great grandchildren. I mean, he was just the sweetest man. Um, I just have,
He was
I
very
have,
smart too. Like, he was
oh,
sharp as
yeah.
a tack till the day he
Hmm.
died.
Hmm.
Yeah, he used to work at, so when my mom was about 2, they lived in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. They moved there, and he worked in that nuclear base or whatever's there in Oak Ridge. And
Mhm.
he was never allowed to tell anybody what he did. To this day, nobody knows what his job was. It was like top secret. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. But yeah, it's very smart. Worked hard his whole life. Just one of the most wonderful men. But yeah, I just miss him a lot. I'm so happy that you have those memories with
Mhm.
him. Yeah.
It's funny because we ended up living in their house.
Mm-hmm.
We were teenagers.
Yeah.
That house kind of changed hands within the family like a couple times, and
Mm-hmm.
me and Jake ended up living in this, having the same
Yeah.
bedroom.
That's
So it
right.
was kind
That's
of a
right. Yeah.
fun little full circle
Yeah.
moment there.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
when we were teenagers, like I would always just remember visiting as a kid, and I was like, "Oh, now I live
Yeah.
here.
Right. Yeah.
I love that house."
Yeah. I know
Well,
Adam didn't
there.
want us to leave that house. It's funny. Did it seem smaller to you when we lived there than it did when you visited?
Yeah,
Kind of.
but
Yeah. It kind of
yeah,
did
I
seem.
always loved. I
Yeah.
don't know what it was about that house. I don't know if it was just because we had so much history there, but I always
Yeah.
loved that house. But
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of good memories there.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Very cool. My grandparents, my other grandparents, so my dad's parents, they lived in what I thought was the biggest farmhouse in the world. Like I said, when I was between like 3 and 8, we lived with them. I thought this house was enormous. I went back years later after they had sold it, and I was an adult, and we knew the people that had bought it, and they let us go through it. And I was like, oh, this isn't nearly as big as I thought it was when I was a kid. It's
Yeah,
still a
I remember
nice
that.
house, but I was like, oh, yeah, I thought it was just this big old sprawling farmhouse, and it wasn't. So
I
it's just
remember going
funny
as a
your
kid thinking
perspective.
it was gigantic,
Yeah,
like it
yeah,
never ended.
yeah. It's funny how just some of the things that stick with you. And I always wonder, like, do the things that I remember as a child, who does it? Do other people remember it? Do the things stick with them that stuck with me? I don't know. I remember my same grandmother every year, the grandpa I was just telling you about, my grandma, she would every year on our birthday, because they lived in Texas, she would send every grandchild a birthday card, and she would always put $5 in it. And I know y'all like, dang, extra generous. Well, when that many years ago, I was like, I could not wait to get my $5. And sometimes now I couldn't wait to get $5. So I think I was rich. But I was so excited when it would come near my birthday, and I would go and try to, wait for the mail to come and go see if my birthday card came with my $5 in it. One of my, I found this on Pinterest. My favorite childhood memory is my back not hurting and not paying bills. How many of us can relate to that?
Mm-hmm.
So we've been keeping it a little lighthearted. Y'all want to get into some little bit deeper stuff?
Sure.
Um, One thing I remember, so I have two older sisters, and my oldest sister is 3.5 years older than me. My next oldest sister is 11 months older than me. So y'all do the math.
Mm-hmm.
I was not planned. And that kind of in and of itself is the root of some of my not so great childhood memories. And so I don't talk about this much because, it's water under the bridge and it doesn't really matter. But it is some things that have sort of stuck with me. So my grandfather, okay, not the one I just told you about, not my favorite grandfather, but the other one, my dad's dad. And I don't want Adam to think I'm like portraying him in a negative light, because it's Adam's great grandfather, who he had some time with, not probably as much as his other great grandfather, but he had always what seemed to be sort of blamed me, even as a baby, for taking my sister's baby years from her, I guess. So my sister was 2 months old when my mom got pregnant. And so she was 11 months old when I was born. So she was not even a year old yet. So I think my grandpa used to, he'd come over a lot to our house, because this is before we had moved in with them. We lived on the same road as them, just like down the other end of the road. So he would come by, check on my sister to make sure she was still getting enough attention. And she has always, and from that point had been his favorite. And that was okay. I mean, I was a baby, I didn't know, but even through the years, I knew that, she was his favorite. So it seemed to create a little bit of, I think he sort of resented me for it, which is odd because obviously I was not in control of the situation. But he would say kind of mean things to me through the years, and I don't think that ever stopped. Like even as I had grown up, and I know I can see Adam's face, and I think he's like, I had no idea. Like my sister. When I was tiny and she was big enough, she used to come in, so I'm told, and like shake my crib. Like she was angry, I guess, that I had taken her baby years or whatever from her. And she would try to, choke me out and stuff, I guess. Not really, but she was a little angry with me too. And so I think that's why maybe my grandfather just wanted to be extra protective of her. And so the parts that sort of carried over into that was I heard a lot, and it seemed like more from him than other people about like, why aren't you more like your sisters? I got that a lot growing up. So my sisters are both very intelligent. They were both did very well in school. I did okay in school. I mean, I did pretty good. But they were both now we went to a small school, but they were both valedictorian in their classes. But we went to the same private school that Adam and Bethany went to as kids. So I started in 7th grade there, graduated from there. So we had a lot of the same teachers. Like I was always right behind my sister, always 1 year behind her. And even in years before that, oh, you're Robin's little sister, you're Amy's little sister. And so I was always sort of living in their shadow. But my grandfather, it seemed like he was always comparing me to them and just like kind of letting me know that I didn't quite measure up, I guess. Like one time I remember I was doing something in the kitchen. I don't know if I was like cleaning up after a meal or doing dishes or something. And he was like, how do you think you're ever going to get a job when you move around that slow? And I was like, I was like, I didn't know I was moving slow, but I was probably 14, maybe 15. And I was like, I mean, it was just like so, it stuck with me. Like I remember it all these years later, like he just was always comparing me to them. And it hurt me so much. And it caused me to just kind of not really I just wasn't really fond of him. And I know that sounds terrible and I feel bad for feeling that way, but I couldn't seem to change it. I couldn't seem to get past that feeling of him just not liking me. Like one time, so fast forward to being an adult, my grandparents, these same grandparents, sorry, not the cat. They had built a house. It was like a ranch house, and then it had a full basement that was finished, and it was an apartment in the basement. So for a while there, my sister and I lived in this apartment, and my grandmother was sick, and she had passed out. She had fallen, and it was my sister and her then boyfriend, now husband, and myself. We were playing video games, and I heard a thump, and I was like, I remember saying to them, "Oh, that didn't sound good. I'm going to go see what happened." So I run upstairs, and I see that my grandmother is like lying on the floor. She's passed out, like she's not well. She needs to go to the hospital, and so I run down and yell for my sister, and they come upstairs, and I'm calling 911. We're calling for an ambulance for her, and I ride in the ambulance, and they follow behind with my grandpa. And a little bit later, he was like, "Man, I'm glad Robin was there to take care of all that." And I was like, "Me too," like she didn't come and check on y'all. It was me, but it was just like she was always in the forefront of his mind. She could do no wrong, and it was like no matter what I did, it was still not enough. And so that stuck with me for so long, and a lot of my worth was based on that. I was like, gosh, I guess I'm
Mm-hmm.
not really, everything I should be. I guess I need to be a better person, or I need to try harder or something. And it really had a negative impact on me. I really had to work to overcome that. And I remember thinking, this is so awful. I've never admitted this to anybody. I was afraid that when my grandfather died, that I would not cry. And I know that sounds weird. I was like, what if I don't even feel any emotion about him? Now, I loved him. He was my grandfather, but we just didn't have that connection. And so I didn't for like through the whole funeral service. At a funeral, you do your last kind of, you walk by, and I did cry, and I don't know why. I think I just was crying because I knew that people were really sad, and my grandfather was in his 80s, but I knew it was still upsetting for other people, and so I think that's why I cried, and I still feel bad about that, but I was like, it wasn't manufactured emotion, but I was afraid I wasn't going to have any, just because that was the impact that those negative memories had on me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a sad story. I know it is, and I'm sure Adam has never heard that before, but I'm here to tell you, people can do some damage to you emotionally and mentally, and either have no idea or don't care, or they're just oblivious. I don't know which it is, but I like to think he didn't know, what he was doing. But it was a lifelong impact for me.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I know that was kind of deep, but I'm going to kick it off to the next person. Y'all can tell me something sad and how it impacted you. But yeah.
Adam, it's your turn.
I know, I said we're about to get into something deep.
It's your turn. I don't know if the world's ready for mine yet.
I only really have like one negative memory from my childhood. And I remember I was in fourth grade, and we'd been going to our school. I'd been going since I was in preschool, and it was, as a kid, we were like, oh, we're always going to be here. And it was just, we didn't know any better. And I remember as we were starting that year, me and Bethany had to temporarily switch to go into Franklin schools.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I don't know what all happened, and it doesn't matter now, but I remember how kind of like terrifying that was, because we had never done anything like that before. And it was, our school was so small, like classes were like 20, 25, 30 kids, and we go to public school, and there are a million of them. And I remember just being so terrified. There was a couple days going, and I just remember being kind of scared and like not knowing what to do, because the whole system was different. Like you actually had to get up and go to like different classes, and up until that point, we just had one teacher that taught everything. So and I remember kind of just getting through the first couple days, and then like out of nowhere, I guess whatever was preventing us from going back to MCS got fixed or whatever. And the whole, I don't remember how long it lasted. Looking back, it feels like it was only maybe a couple of days.
It was a few days, maybe 3 or 4 or something.
By like the end of the week, we were back at our original school. We were only like a day or two late to start there, and after that point, it was like nothing happened. But looking back, it wasn't that bad, because we ended up going through the same thing again in high school when I started. And I remember I actually remembered some of the kids from that grade, and then I actually ended up going to high school with them for 4 years. I was like, I kind of remember you. But looking back, like, it seems so bad at the time, but looking back, I realized it was honestly probably a good thing, because it kind of gave us that little taste, and to kind of prepare. It didn't like prepare me that well, just because I was such an awkward kid, but it was just kind of a good preparation for switching over.
Intro. Yeah.
Um, I used
Yeah.
to think that high school was the worst thing that ever happened to me, and looking back, I don't even really remember any of the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but it wasn't a big deal looking back. I was just like, oh yeah, that happened, and then we were out of there, and then I had to
Yeah.
go to school for 4 years with the same idiots I was in that class with.
Yeah,
But
it was a whole money situation. So anyone that has children in private school will know that it's very expensive, and so it was a money
Mm-hmm.
situation. We were not able to afford it, and so that year, the school actually provided some scholarships for them to be able to go after the first
Mm-hmm.
first few days. Yeah, so the school was like, "Yeah, we've got some scholarships, and um,
Hmm.
we will let them come back." And I was like, "Okay." I will tell you, as a mother, having them switch schools both times, both when Adam was in fourth grade and high school. It was fourth grade, right, Adam? Was it
mhm.
fourth grade? Yeah. Um, Absolutely destroyed me. I mean, I was so upset about just worrying about my children and wanting what was best for them and not wanting to see them have to go through anything difficult. Um, I was so protective that maybe did them a little bit of a disservice because I wanted them to just be safe and protected all the time and happy, and took the opportunity for them to get to go right back to where they were comfortable, to their comfort
Mm-hmm.
zone. And then the day finally came that we really couldn't afford it anymore. It was at the point when his father and I got a divorce, and then it wasn't going to happen because it just wasn't going to happen. So they had to go back to public school, and that also destroyed me. I tried everything I could to keep them to be able to go to the same school, and I just couldn't do it. So
Mm-hmm.
um, as a mother, that was I don't want to say it was harder for me than it was for them, but it was very difficult for me. I cried a lot of tears over that. But I think it's interesting. I hadn't really thought of it that way, Adam, as you said, about kind of giving you a little bit of a taste of what
Mhm.
that might be like. And maybe I did you a disservice and should have just let you stay in public school, and then you would have had all those same people that you knew all those years. I don't know. You always hope you're making the right decision, and you never know for sure if you are. But yeah, I always, I've heard this story. This lady that I used to know, she was super, super protective of her daughter. And she talked about sort of like comparing her to a plant. Like you're starting to grow a new plant and you keep it in the greenhouse to protect it. And until it's grown and strong and got a solid root system, and then you move it out and let it flourish out of the greenhouse. And that's sort of how she's viewed, her and her husband viewed raising their daughter. They wanted to protect her until she was on a firm, morals and values and all those things, and then put her out to where she could grow on her own. And that might work sometimes. And maybe that's kind of what I was hoping for my children. But for this particular girl, it didn't. She didn't do well once she got out. Now, when I say she didn't do well, I think she's happy. Sorry, I think she was happy and fine, but she was very different. She didn't hold the same standards and values that her parents had raised her with. She sort of put those aside and established her own. So that whole greenhouse, protect them as long as you can. I'm not saying it's wrong. It just doesn't always work out the way you think it will. So I think looking back, I'm glad that y'all had the years that you did at the private school, but I think also having the years at the public school sort of was a dose of reality for you at a younger age than I got my dose of reality, because I went to public school through the sixth grade. middle school, high school, and 4 years of college were all in a private Christian school / college. And so once I got my first big girl job out of college, I was like a little bit shell shocked about things that people did and said and how they acted. And I was like, oh, I was had been sort of in that little bubble for so many years that I didn't realize, what other people's worlds were like. And so it was, y'all got that a little quicker than I did. And I think it just sort of helps build who you are. It impacts how you develop into the person that you want to be and who you want to be, who you don't want to be. And just sort of got your dose of reality a little bit sooner than I did. So I hope that didn't screw you up too bad. You seem like you're well balanced and like you're doing all right. So I hope I didn't mess you up too bad.
I used to think high school was like the worst thing that ever happened to me, but now that I have like the adult perspective on things, I'm like,
it's like marrying her was the worst.
I'm like, looking back, I'm like, I really don't remember the bad things being as bad as I thought they were at the time. And I'm glad, because as soon as I got out of high school, I got into like working retail, and you have to work with, huge amounts of strangers every day. And like, I really feel like it kind of pushed me. I never really was like sociable in high school, but like I was a little more than I would have been in a class of 30 people.
Yeah.
I actually, to this day, sometimes I still have dreams where I'm back in high school, and like the opportunity will be like, someone will come up and be like, hey, you can go back to your old school if you want to. And almost every single time in my dream, I'm like, nah, I think I'm probably just going to stay here. Like, I feel like it's going to be too weird to go back to that now.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
that's interesting.
Yeah. But
it's like a recurring dream that you have.
Yeah, I get it every so often, but I usually end up like sticking where I'm at, and I'm like, it's probably better if I just kind of learn the ropes here. But I remember my freshman year of high school was really rough, just adjusting to everything. But by my sophomore year, I pretty much breezed through the rest of it. Like, kind of got to know everybody.
Your freshman year was tough because your father and I had divorced, just separated, divorced. You had to change schools. You had to move. Everything was different. And as a parent, that's the last thing anybody wants for their children, is to put them through so many new situations and challenges and hurts. And, the fact that you and Bethany came out shining examples of wonderful children is a gift, because it's definitely nothing to do with anything I did. You all are just good kids. But yeah, it was a rough year. I remember, and I was, you found out you were getting a baby brother. I got remarried. I mean, we're talking major list of changes. So, looking back, I think, you can hopefully always look back and try to see what you learned from it. I've learned a lot from it too, for sure. But just the fact that, I didn't send you over the edge is a miracle.
Just the older I get, like, the more I appreciate what it did for me. So, I almost don't even remember like most of my junior and senior year, just because I just blew by so quickly. I was like, I don't even really remember what classes I took or hardly any of that. Just kind of just went on autopilot, just got in, got out.
Right. Yeah.
People are silly. What are you looking at, Adam?
Carrot's on the floor now. He's laying.
Oh, I was like, did he speak to you? I want to hear him. But yeah, no.
Do y'all have any other memories or good, bad? Well, let me think. I would just say that I guess trying to think of a good memory. I know that my mom was very, well, she wasn't, I was thinking about this morning. I think that her love language for her children, while I said I didn't really get the physical touch or I'm not saying I never got words of affirmation, because I remember her saying things about, just encouraging me for, in school and things like that. But I think her love language was probably quality time or acts of service, maybe acts of service. Because I remember she used to make a lot of clothes. She used to sew a lot of clothes for my sister and I. And we had a lot of matching outfits and stuff. I could show you pictures. But I remember, maybe having like a special event, like a Christmas program at school or something the next day. And she would stay up really late at night to make sure if she was making me a new outfit or a new dress to make sure it was done. She might stay up really late to make sure it was done. And she worked full time most of the time when I was a kid. Not all of it, but most of it. And so I knew that was really a sacrifice for her. And I always appreciated that she did that. I didn't take that for granted. But I think that there were things that I learned from my mom. That was one of them, is that, you do things, you do extra and you go above and beyond especially for people that you really love. But she would also do a lot of acts of service for other people. I remember one time, my aunt and uncle, they have 4 children, but at the time they only had the first 2, and they were struggling with money. And I was with my mom. I don't know if my sisters were there, but I remember it was my aunt and my mom and I, and my mom took her to the grocery store and just filled up the grocery cart and bought whatever they needed and gave to them. And it wasn't that we had a lot of money. We didn't. I'm sure it was a sacrifice, but she was just very giving like that. She didn't want anyone to do without. And so I like to think that I have maybe gotten some of those gifts from her. I will always give her credit for that, for teaching me those things about how important it is to take care of other people. So that's something that I will never forget. Going to that grocery store, I can still see it, and filling up that grocery cart. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Even as a kid, I knew it was a sacrifice, and I knew it was a really nice thing to do. So, I like to think that's definitely impacted me as an adult.
I think it has.
Yeah.
I think you've definitely picked that up. You're a very giving person.
Thank you.
And it's not my favorite, but it's one of my favorite qualities about you. You're very kind and you always take care of us, especially when we come and visit you. So, or even when you're up here in Ohio, this past Christmas, you took good care of us. We played games and stuff. Like you just, I love you so much. I could go on and on. It's ridiculous.
This is why we do this podcast, because I need my weekly Kathryn fix, because she
needs to be reminded how
fills
amazing
me up.
she is.
Yeah, she just keeps feeding my ego.
What I would do to be a Karen in this world.
Oh, no.
This Karen, not like a bad Karen, but like this specific Karen, what I would do. What I would do. I want to be you when I grow up.
You are too sweet.
All right, Adam, do you have any
the good stuff?
Adam, do you have any ending childhood memories
Last
you'd like to end
thoughts?
Maybe I can tell a bat story.
A bad story?
The bat story.
Oh.
Tell it. Let's hear it.
You've probably heard this before, but I don't remember how old I was. I was probably like 6 or 7, maybe older, maybe younger. I don't remember, but our house was like really old, kind of like rough around the edges.
Yeah.
And one night I was in bed, and I don't know if I had just fallen asleep. It felt like it was the middle of the night to me, but realistically it was probably like 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I'm not sure what time it was.
But somehow a bat had gotten into the house and was like flying, like a bat.
No, you've never told me this. What?
Yeah,
he is
and it
not
was,
making this up.
Flying around the living room, like it didn't know. Obviously it was panicking. And I remember,
as were the rest of us.
I think your dad came in and like hurried up and closed my bedroom door. and I
Uh-huh.
was laying
It
there,
would
and I
have
just
to have been your dad because I was in the bed
Uh-huh.
with the blanket over my head
Oh
screaming. So
no.
I'm pretty sure it was him.
and I remember mom screaming, and I remember dad trying to like capture it with like a blanket or something.
My
And
bathrobe.
I just
My
remember like
bathrobe.
You're like,
at the
I'm never
time it was
using
kind of
this
scary
again.
because I was like, please don't let it come in here. But looking back, I'm
Right.
like, like it's kind of funny. But eventually, I think he got it out. I
That
don't
is
know
He
how, but
did. Yeah,
hilarious.
he captured it in my bathrobe and let it go outside. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
But I
like,
I
just
my
remember
never
like
knew that.
it just stuck with me. Just one of those funny little
That's funny. I didn't know you
moments.
remembered that. I had
Yeah.
actually forgotten about it too. You just now said that.
Hmm.
But yes, I was screaming. It got into my bedroom and it was like swooping and diving. And I'm like, oh, screaming with that blanket over my head.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Stop. That's amazing.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. Yeah. So if you ever need someone on bat duty, don't call me.
Don't call. If you ever need somebody on bat duty, don't call Karen. And if you're ever choking, don't call my husband. There are things that they're great at, but it is not either one of those two
I will
things.
let nature take its course.
He will. He will literally. He will let you die.
Survival of the fittest.
I'm not kidding you. His interpretation of knowing that you're good is you not saying anything. The interpretation of every choking like person is if they're not saying anything, they're dying. But my husband's, they're good to go. I don't hear
They're okay.
anything.
They're
Who
not
am I to get in the
requesting
way of
help.
nature?
You were
Yeah.
gonna let your wife die.
Let the chips fall where they may.
Wow, I'll remember that next time.
Maybe that's my fault because I try not to panic too much. Now, the bat, I definitely panicked, but for the most part, I would try to stay calm in, chaotic situations. So maybe I taught him that. And
I
Adam, it
would.
is okay to panic sometimes.
I say I would agree with you if this wasn't a very obvious you need to be panic situation. Like it wasn't one like he wasn't even in the room. If he was in the room with me and he was doing that, that would be fine because he would have had like eye contact with me. He would know. But
Yeah.
this man was in a whole nother room and just thought, I don't hear
Yeah.
her. She's
Adam,
okay.
I don't think you're gonna live this one down. So
Oh no, that my
you're just
oven,
gonna have to hear about it. Yeah.
my
Yeah.
oven, and that one. He'll never
Maybe,
hear.
hey, Adam, maybe if you cry about it and tell her that you're really upset
If you
that
make it
she
up to
keeps
me,
bringing it up, then maybe she'll
I'll
feel
laugh and
bad.
tell more people. I'll be
If
like,
that's
"You're
the
so
worst
sad
thing you
about
can
it."
say about me, I'm doing okay.
He's so goofy. I can't with you, Felder. Oh,
What you
Felder,
got for us
Felder.
to end with, Kathryn?
I feel like this is a topic we didn't touch up on at all, but childhood
Okay.
friends. I want to end this on a fun note with my
Oh yeah.
best friend Sophie. Love her with my entire heart. We actually met when we were
Yeah.
children. We're
Uh-huh.
actually like 5 days apart birth wise. Like we're like
Mm-hmm.
we're Aries, we're April babies. That's like our biggest thing. We've been friends forever. And I have so many fond memories with her, from being in both of our weddings and just stuff. And I feel like childhood friends do and don't kind of go forgotten in the sense of it's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
we've been doing this forever, but it's like she shaped me into she was took in part of shaping me as the woman that I am today.
Yeah.
And I know
That's
you're most
great.
likely listening to this, Sophie, so thank you
Hey,
so
Sophie.
much for being
Yeah.
in my life and for taking part in shaping me into the
Mm-hmm.
woman I am today. But I will always have the fondest memories. We used to have a mutual friend who's actually her cousin. Where we would go and like we would spend the night at the mutual friend's house, her cousin's house, and we would just all night make up little dances to music, talk about boys, watch
Yeah.
our favorite movie to watch to this day is Grease. We used to watch the musical
Oh.
Grease all the time. And with the older we got, the more we got to explore the internet. So I may be outing ourselves a little bit, but we used to get on Omegle every so often.
And what?
Omegle. It is not a
I
website
don't
I
know what that
ever
is.
don't look it up. It's not a
Okay.
website I
It doesn't
recommend.
Okay.
exist anymore.
It doesn't. No, it was you met strangers on there. Don't ever do that. Don't
Oh Lord.
do that, children. I will never recommend that. But we were children learning the internet. We were young. Not to say that there weren't parents there. My friends' parents were there every single time we spent the night, but we would just go down to the basement and we just hang out. We talk. We make little dances. We always ate popcorn every single time we stayed the night there. Oh, there's a car. Our least favorite neighbor
Oh.
Let's let
Thought
him
it was
leave.
thunder.
No, he's our least favorite. He has the loudest car, and the apartment won't do anything about it, even though literally next door to us is a baby. Like, I know
Oh.
it's an apartment and you're allowed to be as loud as you want, but like, you live in an
Is it a
apartment.
sports car or something?
I think
The
it's a
Mustang.
Mustang.
Oh, okay.
But like
Yeah.
it's like one of those where it's like the 50-50. It's like, yeah, we live in an apartment. You expect random sounds, but it's like you live in an
Right.
apartment. Like, why would you want to ruin, like, nobody likes you. Literally not a single person in this complex likes you, sir. But but basically she yeah, I just thank you, Sophie.
Aw.
What are you doing,
Oh.
Adam?
Oh.
Sorry, I wanted to show off. There's a full loaf ginger.
Full loaf!
Oh.
In case
He
anybody
found
wants
a
to
little
know,
spot in the
this is
sun.
an extremely rare occurrence. This cat never loafs. Like, I'm not kidding you. This is a very rare moment that you are all
They'll
witnessing in
usually
this
have one little
podcast.
paw sticking out, so when he does both, it's an event.
It's a
I just
whole
love that
event.
he found a little sun spot to sit in.
Right. But yes, alas, thank you, Sophie, so much for
Yeah.
shaping me into the woman I am today. You have a lot of my childhood memories is with Sophie. Like, literally, we went to oh my god. This will also, I don't think Maddie went with us, but I have another friend named Maddie who was a part of my life in like my high school days because we used to go to church together, and there was a lock-in once that's I invited Sophie to go with us, and we went, and we snuck out, Sophie and I, and we drove over all the way to McDonald's, and we got McDonald's, and we brought it back. We got caught because they were taking roll call, and when Sophie and I aren't there, so they're like, "Where did you go?" And we went and got
Busted.
McDonald's. But we just it's
Little
memories like
rebels.
that. We were little rebels
Yeah.
when we were a little younger. We did a lot of we
Mm.
didn't sneak out, but we did stuff like that where we like left
Yeah.
things and didn't tell people right away. But just yeah, just a lot of fun memories, going over to her house.
Mm.
When she had her daughter, I moved in with her for a couple of weeks just to kind of because her husband left. They weren't married yet, but he left for boot camp, and I think within the same time her mom and dad left for like a whole Europe trip, so she was kind of
Oh,
alone with
wow.
Lucy, so I kind of moved in for a couple of weeks just to kind of be there. So like the
Hmm.
bond that not only do I have with Sophie, but the bond that I have with her daughter as well, and like her
Hmm.
other daughter and son as well. Like it's I'm so blessed, and I feel like just to recognize all the childhood friends that people have in the world as well, and to be
Yeah.
very thankful for them because oh, hello, handsome. He's staring right at the camera. But yes, alas, I'm extremely blessed for the friendships that I have. My friends Sable,
Hmm.
we were friends in high school as well. My friendship with hers and just all of that. So just
Oh,
always hold
cool.
on to the people as well who were there with you in your
Hmm.
childhood that aren't family related.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sophie shaped me to a lot of things, and I'm extremely grateful for the bond I have with her and the bond I get to continue having with her kids as well. I'm so excited I get to see, I mean, her daughter was literally our flower girl, so I'm very excited to see and continue growing the bond with her and her kids as well as seeing her become an
Hmm.
auntie to our children as well when we finally start having kids. So,
Yeah.
shout out to you,
Cool.
Sophie. I love you. Yeah, my sister-in-law is texting me.
Also, like I said, this has been kind of a deep episode.
Yeah.
Please message us if there's anything you want to comment on, or any questions that you have, any experiences that you want to share with us. It's not easy to talk about some of these things, obviously. As an older person in another generation than these two, really reflecting back, it's very easy to see how different memories have shaped me and influenced me into the kind of person that I am. And even the painful memories, even the ones that don't sit well, I think it's still important that they do play a role. And so I always try to think about, remembering how things made me feel and wanting to make sure that I never make someone else feel that way. That's that's the best sometimes you can do with those negative memories, is to really just use them to shape you for the better.
Absolutely. Do you have any final thoughts or words, Adam?
Mm,
The way you looked
no,
at each other.
I think we're both good.
You don't look it. Anyway, sorry, Adam. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Nope,
Nothing. No
I'm
words
good.
of encouragement. No,
Um,
my wife is the best person on this planet aside from my mom. You know,
be
nothing.
sure to floss daily.
Are you speaking from personal experience or
It's
just
made a
wanting to
big
let
difference
people?
in my life.
So, are we speaking personally here, or that was a very heavy topic, but
Yeah.
very necessary. But with that being said, if you haven't already in our last video, our Google finally validated us and verified us and said that we were worthy of a description box. So definitely check down in our description box for our Instagram and stuff like that. With that being said, if you haven't already, we would love it if you subscribe to us and hit that notification bell. That way you are notified every time we post a video. Especially when we dealt with this last week with me getting it up a whole day later than I wanted to because Valentine's Day happened, and no offense, but my husband is more important than posting.
He's priority one.
He's number one priority, so I wanted to spend my time with him. So I didn't edit anything on Wednesday. Also, if you haven't already, we would love it if you liked this video and would love if you shared it with your family or somebody you know who could probably use the validation and remembering and all of that. Reminding is the word I wanted to look for. Reminding them that their trauma and everything is valid and that it is okay to heal and grow and find out who they're meant to be in life from everything that had happened with them, and that, you know, even if they're still struggling with it, that they're still completely valid and may just need to hear some words of encouragement. As Karen had said, and as we say every time, definitely leave us a comment down below of if you have any stories you would like to share with us, or any thoughts on any topics you would like to hear, or if you heard something in the podcast that you would like us to touch deeper on. I know we kind of mentioned some recipes from our childhood, so if you want us to talk any more about that, I know some people were wanting to hear some recipes, we could talk about that. Or if you want us to go any more depth of, you know, healing from trauma from our childhood, or if you want to hear some more fun childhood memories from us, kind of like our embarrassing stories podcast. If you want to hear any embarrassing stories from our childhood, definitely let us know down in the comments down below. With that being said, this has been Coffee with Milk, and we will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.